Check it out, everyone. I've got the Motorola DROID X in my hands. Well, it's actually the Motorola DROID X2, and as you can tell, it has the same design approach as its predecessor. Hey everyone, John Velasco here with PhoneArena. You're watching our in-depth video review of the Motorola DROID X2. It's available right now at $200 on contract through Verizon Wireless. It has a similar design to its predecessor, but sports some improved hardware under the hood. But we'll check it out to see hopefully if it could stand against some of the recent offerings on Verizon's lineup. Although we're still presented with the same size 4.3-inch display, we actually see a bump in terms of resolution. It's now QHD, which is in fact 540 by 960 pixels, so a slight increase from its predecessor. It makes for pretty good pixel density, and of course you could tell with the text here, very easy to read, pretty fine and clear, and color production is quite natural, to tell you the truth. It doesn't seem too washed out or too saturated. Pretty good color to it. As far as viewing angles, they're more than acceptable, and we really didn't have a hard time using it in outdoor conditions. Below the display, we find the usual set of physical buttons, and of course they're slightly raised and a pretty good feel to it. Unfortunately, the handset lacks a front-facing camera, which is kind of strange just because you have devices like the Droid Incredible 2, which is not a 4G LTE device that has it. On the left side of the phone, you have the micro USB port for charging and data connection, and on top of that we find the same micro HDMI port, which allows you to output high-definition videos, and on top of that it gives you a mirrored experience. Meanwhile, on the right side, you have the volume rocker. It's kind of on the tiny side, but still exhibit a pretty good response when you press it down. Also, you have the dedicated power button on the top edge of the phone. It has a pretty good feel to it, raised as well. And you have 3.5mm headset jack. You have also the microphone, which is used for noise cancellation. Finally, in the rear, we have the 8-megapixel autofocus camera with dual LED flash. It has the ability to shoot 720p videos. You have the speakerphone notch right there, the directional microphone. The metallic back cover gives it a very sturdy feel, but it doesn't take that much force to actually remove it. Once you do that, you have access to its battery, and you'll need to remove it if you want to swap out the micro SD card right there. It's not uncommon to find successive devices retaining the design styles of their predecessors, just like what we saw with the iPhone 3G and 3GS, but the Motorola DROID X2 is an exact facsimile to its predecessor. It's a fairly large handset still, just because for people with smaller hands, your thumb really needs to encompass a wide range of space for its display. But still, it's solidly built all around. We like the quality choice materials it has to offer. It has a metallic exterior combined with a soft touch coating, gives it a clean look all the time, does a great job repelling dirt and debris. As we mentioned, it's quite sturdy as well. It is a little bit on the top heavy side just because of the hump towards the top edge, but still fairly streamlined at 0.39 inches thick all around. We would just like to see a subtle difference in terms of design, just to give it a slight distinction versus its predecessor, just like we saw with the Motorola DROID and DROID 2, but for the most part it doesn't quite have that same appeal as the original. Needless to say that the biggest improvement with the Motorola DROID X2 is the fact that it's powered by a 1 GHz dual-core Integra 2 processor, so it does make the handset fly pretty quickly here. Even with the live wallpaper activated, it's pretty much able to navigate across the home screens, although with a little bit more graphically intensive ones, it does have a slight delay to it, but nothing detrimental. With the app panel, you can tell kinetic scrolling is fairly smooth, and it's also responsive to the touch. It might not exhibit some mind-blowing benchmark results, but still, as far as the user experience is concerned, it's pretty good. Love it or hate it, the DROID X2 is actually running the same customized light version of Mode Blur that we saw last year with the original handset. So it doesn't require you to log into a Motorola account, so you can set up a variety of different accounts from your social networking ones to your Gmail, whatever you want. In terms of personalization, it's pretty much straightforward. You have all the usual set of widgets, whether it be the stock Android one or the Motorola ones. You can tell here they're mostly boxy, but the unique thing about it is that you could resize them to whatever length you want, and they'll automatically adjust here. And I'll show you that really quick. So for example, you have the Motorola widgets. You could go to something like the bookmarks widget, which will display a bunch of different stuff. So for example, let's select a couple here, and then it places it on the home screen. And what you do a long press, and then from here, you'll be able to resize it to whatever length you like it. And as you can tell, it automatically will resize, which is pretty nice. Also, we notice if you do swipe up from the bottom up, it gives you this almost helicopter view. You could rearrange the home screen or instantly jump to any one of them. And of course, you have all the usual personalization you'd expect out of Android. Seeing that we're agreed with a sizable display, typing a message is no problem at all. Even in portrait, we like the fact that it's very responsive to touch. Pretty good amount of space too, so it's not too cramped. You could tell also that it has the multi-touch keyboard, but in addition to that, you could also utilize the swipe keyboard, whichever one you're more comfortable with. Of course, tilting to landscape will present you with the best typing experience just because buttons are really big and very easy to type on. As always, we find the usual Gmail experience with the Motorola DROID X2. It's pretty fantastic just because you have a rich set of features with it. Setup is pretty simple, just your email address and password and automatically will set up. And as far as other email clients are concerned, it might require some additional pieces of information such as server addresses and ports. Sure, it might not feel like a next-gen handset on Verizon's lineup just because it doesn't offer 4G LTE connectivity, but still, as far as web browsing is concerned with the handset, it's pretty good, fantastic. A large display gives you plenty of real estate to actually move around, navigate. You have your pinch gestures to zoom in. The text is pretty nice and legible, easy to see, and you have flash support, so you get that desktop-like experience. So either way, it's still a respectable offering. The music player on the Motorola DROID X2 remains pretty much the same as we saw last year. You could browse through your songs by simply going to each category, but the nice thing about it is that if you're in the album view here, you're tilted to landscape. It gives you this nice 3D cover flow-like effect to it, gives it a nice presentation, but when you're actually playing a song, it's going to show you your usual set of items like your album cover, your track information, even on-screen controls. The audio quality is quite good. It doesn't sound crackly. It has a good amount of tone to it. Pretty powerful too. It's even better just because there's a wide range of different equalizer settings you could choose from. The video watching experience with the handset's undeniably great just because there's no lag or any slowdown with it. On top of that, you have plenty of room to watch. The video we have here is encoded in DivX 1280 by 720 resolution. You could tell plenty of good details to it, pretty bright, nice contrast, and moves at a nice respectable rate. One of the other subtle additions with the handset is found with the Gallery app. When you launch it, you have this really nice stacked view of all the recent photos that you've shot. When you get to your camera roll, it pretty much is straightforward. It gives you a grid-like view. If you place it into landscape, it's going to give you that 3D Rolodex type of view to it. And from here, you could do a bunch of stuff. You could actually share it, you could send it, you could delete it, and even edit the photo as well. In terms of preloaded software, it's pretty much your standard set of items. You have things like the Amazon Kindle, Amazon MP3 app, and you have also the Blockbuster one. Verizon does throw in their usual set of apps such as VCast apps, VCast music, videos, VZ Navigator, and of course you have all the usual set of Google applications as well. If you like taking lots of photos, you'll definitely like the 8 megapixel camera sensor on the Motorola DROID X. It's actually the same megapixel count as last year, no difference. This time around though, Motorola decided to remove the dedicated shutter key, so now you gotta rely on the on-screen one. But when you do press it, it automatically will focus in the shot and take the image. As far as image quality, it's actually the same as last year, nothing different. It doesn't improve whatsoever. We're still presented with a good amount of detail in outdoor shots, though it's a little bit on the softer side. Still, colors look on the natural side as well. Indoor shots, the LED flash does a good job illuminating the scenery, but anything more than 7 feet away, it really doesn't work that well. But overall, it's pretty good. Fortunately, this time around, the Motorola DROID X2 has the ability to shoot 720p videos at a frame rate of 30 frames per second, so it looks a little bit smoother than last year's model. But in terms of just quality, it's not all that great. Actually, when we viewed it on a computer, we noticed that there's a little bit of artifacting going on, especially when you go from one different extreme to the other. On top of that, there's still a choppiness to the video as well, and it's lacking on detail. Though colors look a little bit on the saturated side, and exposure definitely changes abruptly with it. That's the thing that we noticed the most. Still, you might want to stick with your dedicated HD camcorder for all your video recording needs. As far as call and quality is concerned with the Motorola DROID X2, it's exceptionally great just because the earpiece produces some strong tones, and voices on both ends of the line are distinct and clear, very easy to converse, no problems whatsoever, so we're happy with that. As far as the speakerphone is concerned though, it produces a pretty good amount of powerful tones, but it does sound a little bit on muffled side, but still quite easy to make out. Strangely enough, we find some weak signal strength with the handset in high coverage areas just because right now we're getting only a single bar. Either way though, in our testing, we didn't experience any drop calls with it. Battery life is pretty much the same that we saw last year. The manufacturer has a rated for 8 hours of talk time, but in a single charge we managed to get 9 hours and 45 minutes, so a little bit better than what we saw last year. As far as normal everyday usage, we easily managed to get a solid day worth of usage out of it. Heavy users, of course, will constantly want to still charge the handset. So here's the thing with the Motorola DROID X2. If you own the original handset, we definitely won't recommend you moving up to this device just because the only new additions that you really get is the dual-core processor and a slightly higher resolution display. Besides those two items, it pretty much is the same exact handset, down from its actual design to also the performance in various areas such as the camera quality, the calling quality, and even the battery life. It's pretty much the same. But if you're moving up from a feature phone, definitely want to take this handset into consideration. But then again, there are also the 4G LTE devices out there, but they do cost a little bit more, starting at $250, where this device is only $200 on contract. So it just depends on what taste you want to go with. Either way, the DROID X2 is a pretty good high-end Android-powered smartphone. So if you'd like to learn more about the DROID X2, or for all the latest cell phone reviews, news, specs, and information, you can check us out, PhoneArena.com.